Welcome in. My name is Josh, and today we're going to be talking about part 2 of skill versus talent. If you haven't seen part 1, be sure to do that first. If you have seen part 1, let's keep going. So last week I said that the beginner artist on first, the talented one on third, they're both playing the same game and they both need to get to home. So that the beginner artist on first has a better chance of getting there. Why? Because the beginner artist on first, all he has to do to get to home, all he has to do to make it as a full-time artist is to know how much he sucks and be okay with that and to overcome his fear of failure. As opposed to the naturally talented artist on third, who not only has to overcome his newfound fear of failure, but he also has to overcome his pride. He's good, but not great, and for the first time in his life, art has actually started to get hard. When this happens, the artist on third has 3 possible outcomes that can happen. Number 1, they either overcome both battles, beating both fear and pride. Number 2, they only beat one but not the other. Number 3, or they lose to both. Up first, losing both. So at the height of their natural talent, if that talented artist does not overcome their fear or their pride, they end up not progressing as an artist at all. Until this moment, art has been pretty easy for the talented artist. Until this point, the talented artist has been really content and able to create satisfactory level work, and the amount of effort it takes to break through that double wall of both fear and pride is a lot. And it's often too high of a price to pay for somebody who's just doing art for fun. An overwhelming amount of young talented artists are perfectly content to stay within their comfort zone and just creating the stuff that comes easy for them. If the talented artist never progresses beyond this point, they'll turn into a hobbyist and they'll just be content to create their fan art and their OCs and just post them to Tumblr or Instagram or whatever and just be perfectly content doing that. This is more commonly found in Type B artists who typically have less ambition than their Type A counterparts and are just doing art because it's fun. They already think they have a pretty solid grasp of the fundamentals, so they don't really want to go back and try to relearn any bad habits. They don't really want to go through and do the things that they don't want to do. So as long as they're having fun, why change? Why spend all the effort to go and try to break through these walls? Like, I'm already good, I already know that I'm good, and life is good, so I'll just stay where I'm at, thanks. And that's totally fine, but just recognize that you've now turned into a hobbyist artist, because if you always dial back when it gets hard and you stay within your comfort zone, you're not going to be able to make it in the industry, you're not going to be able to improve and get to the level that the industry requires. So you become a hobbyist, and hobbyists are great, but just be honest with yourself and recognize that you're taking a step back and saying, you know what, that's too much, I'm content being at the level that I'm at and I want to be a hobbyist artist. So if that's you, that's great, but just be honest with yourself that that's what you're doing. Up next, overcoming fear, but succumbing to pride. This is where it gets really dangerous. The artist with this mindset is stressed, arrogant, sad, and empty. Artists like this hang their entire self-worth on their skill as an artist and don't let themselves fail, and they force themselves to be godlike all the time. But wait, Josh, you just said that they overcame fear but succumbed to pride. How can they still be afraid to fail? Until you beat your pride, it's impossible to fully embrace your failures. Your pride literally won't allow it. So even just the phrase of overcoming your fear of failure but succumbing to pride is already paradoxical because it technically can't be done. The best that you can do is partially overcome your fear of failure, and that's what this category is. What'll happen is that these artists will try to stay in their comfort zone for as long as possible. They'll never be hungry to learn more. They don't want to go outside their comfort zone. They much rather stay inside doing the things that they're good at, and going outside is the epitome of a last resort. They don't want to do it. And if they do have to go outside their comfort zone, they go out and do it as fast as they possibly can and just stay up all night and bust it out so that their comfort zone can expand as quickly as possible because they hate sucking so much, but they still go out and suck anyway. They just hate it. They try to improve as fast as they can and expand their comfort zone, not out of a love for a craft, but out of this desperate insecurity that agonizes them if they make anything that they're not proud of, or if they make anything that sucks. Their improvement as an artist and expanding their comfort zone and getting better is rooted in a fear of failure as opposed to a joy of discovery and improving. So in this sense, yes, they're still afraid of failure, but they've overcome it to the extent that they're willing to put themselves out there in the first place, which is a huge first step, but they're still miserable. They're desperate to get back into their comfort zone, for their comfort zone to expand so that they can feel awesome again, so that they can feel like they're worth something. These artists hate starting the cycle over of seeing and doing. They don't want to improve. They want to get back to their comfort zone so bad, but their pride and their ambition demand that they go out and improve anyway. But they're miserable, they hate it, they're embarrassed, and they are so impatient because they cannot stand to watch themselves make something that isn't godly. At this point, art isn't fun anymore. Art is hell. Anything outside of your comfort zone is a fate worse than death because it shows that you're not a god that you thought you were. This is the worst case scenario. With this mindset, any progress made by the artist will only inflate their ego because they'll view it, as they should in some part, that they've overcome a challenge and they've expanded their comfort zone, and look how awesome I am as an artist, and see, I told you I was awesome, look at how much my comfort zone is expanding, aren't I great? But the key distinction here is that these artists only improve as a last resort. They only do it if they have to, if the client demands it, if the industry that they're trying to get into needs a certain type of portfolio. They don't do it because they want to, they only do it because they need to. And it's that distinction that will forever separate them from being the best that they can be. Now, don't misunderstand, you can definitely get to the industry this way, and the people who are like this are most often the type A people with a ton of ambition, and ambition is great. But it makes for a really unsatisfying, stressful life where you feel like you're always one client away from feeling like a failure, of making something that sucks, and everything that you make is driven out of a fear of looking like an idiot or a fear of making something that sucks, as opposed to a joy of creating and communicating values and stories that will enrich the lives of others. Like, it can be done. You can make good art this way, but you're not gonna be happy at all. Just think of it this way. When you make it into the industry, do you want to be able to celebrate it and be happy that you're one step closer to communicating the scenes and the dreams and the visions in your head and the stories that you want to share with others to enrich their lives, and that you're one step closer to being able to share that with other people and you're so excited? Or do you want to keep a sigh of relief, like that everything in your life was hinging on this one pivotal moment, and that now that you've made it, your life has some meaning, and if you didn't make it, your life would have been trash? Like, there's more to life than art, and there's more to life than getting into the industry. Just remember that your value as a human being isn't tied up to how well you can draw pictures or communicate the things you see in your head. Up next, overcoming pride but succumbing to fear. Now, on the contrary, if at the peak of their natural talent, the naturally talented artist breaks down their pride but not their fear, they'll just turn into a huge insecure mess. They'll think they're trash, they'll think that art was a mistake and so were they, and they'll feel so decidedly outclassed that they'll just want to give up. If a talented artist sees a master like this and just gets so hopelessly outclassed that it shatters their pride, which is a good thing, but then they can't accept the fact that it's okay that they got outclassed, and they'll just quit. And that'll be it. And finally, up next, the best case scenario, overcoming both. Finally, good news. This is the most rare, but also the most beneficial outcome for the talented artist. It's also the most difficult to achieve, though. So as you might have guessed, it does require that the talented artist get hopelessly outclassed, which is necessary in dispelling any sense of pride that they have. But they have to have that key difference, the resolve, the ambition to be able to rise to the challenge. It requires the talented artist to be aware of what talent that they have, but to be able to dissect it, to be able to be honest, to be like, wow, I don't really know the foundations as well as I thought that I did, or wow, I've been having a really bad habit that's actually not as productive or amazing as I thought it was. They have to be able to take a look into their toolbox, into their natural talent, and be able to actually identify what their talent is, to be able to deconstruct and dissect why they're good, not just, oh, I'm a god, but it's like, no, like, what skill do you have? Are you better at shading? Do you have a natural grasp of perspective? Like, why is it that you can create the way that you can create right now? This almost always requires a direct intervention by a mentor, a teacher, a master, somebody who the talented artist respects. Because again, if they don't respect the person, then that's not going to overcome their pride, and they're just gonna not listen to them because they think they're awesome. So if they find somebody that they respect, who can teach them, first outclass them and show them that, hey, you're actually just still a child and let me show you how it's really done. And then after they do that, go through and help them with their craft, But again, the whole key here is the pride thing. So not only do they have to respect the person who outclasses them, they have to respect the person who's trying to help them, and that's oftentimes not the same person. So to having a naturally talented artist respect two artists, two different ones, who are probably at different skill levels, can be kind of difficult depending on how much pride the artist has. But that's the equation you need. You need to be able to outclass them, and you have to be able to respect whoever it is that's trying to help you. In order to overcome both walls, a naturally talented artist has to exchange his pride to a healthy confidence of, no, okay, I'm not the cat's meow, but I do know some things, and these are the things that I know, and I'm good at them, and I still have a lot to learn. That's what you can still be confident, you can still be aware that you're gifted. You can still be aware that you have a head start and not let it go to your head. It can be done. Humble confidence is definitely a thing. And in doing this, the talented artist, by getting this humble confidence, lets themselves be a human being, and it gives themselves permission to fail because they recognize that, yeah, I don't have it all together, and that's okay. So if you think about it that way, the best way for an artist on third base to get to home is to find a mentor that they respect. Otherwise, they could get there, but if they do it alone, they'll most likely just reek of pride and be driven out of fear the whole way, and it'll be miserable. So if you're on third base right now and you're naturally talented, find a mentor you respect, because that's the ticket in. Meanwhile, the artist on first, also find a mentor that you respect, though it's not as required for you. See, while the artist on third needs that mentor so not everything goes to their head, the beginner artist on first has no problem with things going to their head because they have nothing to go to their head in the first place because they suck. But again, this is where they have the advantage. They don't have any pride to speak of. All they have is just the insecurity of feeling like a loser and feeling like they'll never amount to anything. That's much easier to overcome than it is to overcome pride. It's much easier to prevent pride from taking root than it is to uproot it once it's there. Now, don't misunderstand. Insecurity and a lack of confidence is a pain to deal with and very difficult in its own right, but it's not as difficult as overcoming pride and not as damaging to the artist as pride is. If you're on first base right now, just listen, okay? It's okay if you suck. If you can accept the fact that you suck and be okay with that and recognize that you're just as much as a human being and just as valuable and just as loved and just as awesome as the artist on third, you're on the same field. Remember, you have the same qualifying gift. You have the creativity and you have the dream. You can do it. You can do it. All the artist on first has to do is not be afraid to suck. What's more, your sucking right now is your insurance against pride. You still have to be careful of not letting pride take root and sabotage your whole artistic career in your life. But you will be forever reminded of where you came from. And instead of letting that turn into a source of pride, you can turn into a source of humility and gratitude and thankfulness of, wow, yeah, I did make it, and I'm so glad that I got here. Because you remember what it's like to suck. And that will most likely lead you to go help other people who are sucking so that they can suck less faster because you remember what it was like. It's okay if you suck, my dude. It is perfectly fine. It is normal. Don't worry about it. You're not gonna suck forever. We're really impatient as a generation generally. I get it. We want to be good yesterday, all right? I totally understand. Things accrue more value the longer they take to obtain. So I know we want instant gratification, we want to be good right now, but you're going to appreciate and value your skill more when you put in the effort. So yes, you can improve faster, yes, there's techniques, and yes, there's shortcuts and cheats that you can do that are actually really just effective tools, but be patient. So get the practice of busting through those walls, of going outside your comfort zone, because you're gonna get momentum, and you're gonna get better and better and better and faster and faster and faster, and it's gonna be easier to go outside your comfort zone. You're not even gonna mind. You're gonna be so comfortable with sucking that people are gonna look at you and be like, how can you be so brave at trying new techniques? And you can say, because it's okay to suck. And that brings me to the end of this week's Thoughtful Thursday. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and check out my socials. It helps me out a lot. You guys, your support means the world to me. It's because of all of you that I can keep doing what I'm doing, so thank you for that. If you want to know more about me personally and just a look behind the scenes in general, be sure to check out my Instagram. I'm the most active on there by far. So thanks again for watching, and I can't wait to see you all next time.